From NEPA to PHC and DISCOs and the regulators, one thing is certain: a steady power supply is a dream that vast majority of Nigerians will want to see come true. It is said that Nigeria, with a population above 200 million, consumes around 4,000 megawatts. But interestingly, more than that is generated. And so somewhere in the middle, that generated power does not get to the actual destination. Last week, a new regulation by the Nigeria Energy Regulatory Commission, NEC, raised Band A rates by 225%. And the Minister of Power, Adedayo Adelabu, says gradually it's going to get to everyone. And in the middle of this development are the unmetered. And so this edition, we will be looking at the metering project from the eye of an industry player. Don't forget, we have our complimentary segment, Simplify These and Local Market Rates. My name is Leah Katung-Babatunde, welcoming you to this edition. And we are streaming live on YouTube at Saban Media Services. Stay tuned. We start the program with a look at the trends table, and the Central Bank of Nigeria is topping the developments chart.
The World Bank, in a recent publication, stated that the cost of trade in Nigeria and Ethiopia is 4 to 5 times higher than what obtains in the United States due to insecurity, higher transportation costs, topography, and poor road infrastructure. World Bank, in its Africa Pulse publication, noted that market distortions across Africa results in price differences of imported food and non-food products, indicating lack of integration across African markets. The report concluded that the consequences of these distortions include preference of African producers to sell locally rather than export. Frictions in the labor markets across Africa are as a result of high transport costs, elevated cost of screening workers, and lack of information on labor opportunities also exacerbated the situation. The World Bank also noted that regulation in markets across Africa is creating barriers to trade, competition, and investment. The Central Bank of Nigeria has banned the use of foreign currency-denominated collaterals for Naira loans. The regulator, in a letter to all banks, stated that the only exceptions will be where the foreign currency collateral is in Eurobonds issued by the federal government of Nigeria or guarantees of foreign banks, including standby letters of credit. The letter, signed by Dr. Adetona Adedeji, added that all loans currently secured with dollar-denominated collaterals other than the 2 allowed categories should be worn down within 90 days. In another development, the CBN has again offered for sale $10,000 to BDCs at 110 naira per $1. The Apex regulator, in a letter to the President Association of Bureau de Change Operators of Nigeria, APCON, said that BDCs are in turn to sell to eligible end users at a spread of not more than 1.5% above the purchase price. APCON had earlier appealed to the CBN to adjust and lower its applicable exchange rate below the 1,251 naira per dollar it pegged for its members, citing losses. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, owes oil traders around $3 billion for imported petrol. A report by Reuters showed that the company is, however, progressively clearing the overdue payments for the imported oil, although the pace of repayment has been relatively slow. It quoted sources disclosing that it was taking more than 130 days to make payment instead of within 90 days. Nigerian Exchange Group PLC has acquired a 5% stake in Ethiopian Security Exchange as it seeks to expand capital market activities in East Africa and across the continent. NGX is the largest foreign institutional investor in the EXX. NGX made the investment alongside institutional investors including FSD Africa and Trade and Development Bank Group during a capital raising exercise by the Ethiopian Exchange, or ESX. According to corporate disclosure made on the NGX website, as part of the investment, The CEO of NGX Group, Demi Kukola, who joined the board of EXX as a nominee of NGX Group.
The National Mass Metering Program, NMMP, was established in the year 2020. The intervention was designed to increase the metering rate, eliminate arbitrary estimated billing, strengthen the local meter manufacturing sector, job creation, and reduce losses associated with revenue collection. Now, 4 years after, where are we? People on estimated billing are at their wits because of that band A billing. And of course, if you are on that band and you fall within that bracket, it means you cannot control what you're getting, and that could be quite worrisome. Mr. Olusesan Okunade is an energy consultant, policy and public affairs analyst. We will be using his industry eye to x-ray the policy behind the mass metering project. You're welcome to the conversation, Mr. Olusesan.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Leah. It's great to be here. And my greetings to all our viewers across the globe. We're going to do our best to give an insight into some of the things revolving around electricity.
So a part of the power problem has been attributed to metering versus billing. And we hear over the years, funds have been made available for meter production, but yet a good number of Nigerians remain unmetered. So what is the matter?
I love your intro about metering, and it states the importance of metering in the business of electricity. To add to what you have said, aside the revenue assurance, it's also to build trust between the consumers or the customers and the provider of the service. And with that, you can see the importance of it. Also, maybe I will add that it's also going to assist in monitoring of your activity so that your consumption can be at the best. Going to the question, yes, NMMP was actually brought up in 2020. But before then, we have the issue of cap meal, where people pay for meters, and within 45 days, they get their meters installed. And going back to it, the government will return back. It's like a credit allowance to say, come and pay for the meter, but we'll revert back those things to you. But coming out with cap meal for maybe 3-4 years, we saw that actually collapsed. The brain behind it, we do not have a deeper eyes. The other aspect was the NMMP, where the meter asset provider were actually contacted in such a way that they will liaise with each discos to supply meters to customers, and they will pay. And like you said in your in the question, they were given certain relief in such a way to make the metering affordable. But part of the things being in the industry that I've seen is that there seems to be too much regulation controlling the aspect of this metering of a thing. You see, meters are in different categories, and I always use this aspect of your telephone. I'm sure you know, for your telephone, you have the Europe-based phones that are sophisticated, and the durability cannot be compared with a country I would not want to mention. Even though they produce quality stuff, is a function of what you give to them to produce. And you see a particular phone lasting as long as 5 years, and you see some within 3 months, you start making call and it start dropping, and you ask yourself, same is obtainable when it comes to the issue of meters, because they are electronic device that actually give accuracy of what is actually being consumed by the consumer. So we have said times to that number that is it possible for liberalization of that sector in such a way that each disco, have the vendors, and the vendors are of different categories. I might decide to be an high-end meter that those high-end customers might really want to afford, looking at the durability, rather than regulating and fixing a price by the regulators, NEC, has actually been a regulator that regulates those prices. So this we have tried 1-2 times. We are NEC regulate the prices, but it's not always in sync with what the suppliers will actually be providing. And you hear so much of you subsidizing at the back end, providing certain relief. Even there was a time the CBN also give preference to this. But till now, we still have over 5 million customers yet to be metered. We have done certain things the same way. It's high time we readdress the issue, which we'll be speaking with. But sincerely speaking, metering is very small in the value chain of electricity, but it's very fundamental because it gives the revenue assurance and also build the confidence on the part of the consumer to say, no, this meter, I must conserve my energy because as of last night, I can see 500. It has maybe because I own 5 AC, it has reduced to 300. Let me reduce my AC if I'm not there and start conserving energy because you now have something that is actually monitoring your consumption, which you can see yourself outside that which the service provider are giving to you.
You said that meters are small but vital. How vital are they to this particular industry?
It is what builds the confidence of consumer to the service provider. If, like you said in your intro, we just heard about the increase in the cost of tariff on people on band A. And before now, there are several people metered, some are not metered. And the wastage my honorable minister was actually referring to are from people that are unmetered because of the estimated billing they are getting. And you know, you have human speaking, this premonition that whether I use it, I don't use it, a bill will come to me. So you are expected to just own everything in your house, whether it's going to be at par with what you have consumed or exceed what they are going to bill to you. You just decide to do that. But an average person with meter, Leah, I can tell you for free that I know some family that when they are out in the morning, they switch off every appliances in their house, inclusive of their deep freezers. It is that important to them because they want to conserve their consumption. I know of elderly people that will tell you that they don't even sleep with fan. They don't sleep with AC. So while they are going to bed, they off their light. So they don't off the light from their room. They off it from the source. Why is everyone doing that particular conservative attitude? It is because there is something to monitor what you are using. And you can see it, you know, without anyone telling you what you have used. It is not about the service provider. It's about me managing my consumption to make sure that what I've actually bought can take me longer than the period where it is. And if you observe in the developed climate, you travel out of the country, you have people coming to tell you, uncle, please, can you switch off the light if you leave the room? Can you switch off the AC if you leave the room? But yeah, we feel that no, if I don't, let it continue. But if you have a prepaid meter, yeah, I don't know if you have, the level at which you manage your consumption will be beyond the disco, enforcing that on you. So the transparency is there. But at times, there is always this gap. And that's why we will speak to that on the later side to say that the disco or the service provider needs to put in a proper monitoring measure to check the utilization of individual that are actually there. Because that meter is not just telling you of your consumption, you have your load apparatus. We can punch 1 or 2 figures on the meter. We know the load that you have in your house. We know the period that you have supply when you go to the load profile of when you have supply, when you are out of supply. So that meter is beyond that thing you and I, we are looking at a lot of value addition that the disco makes use of. Where there is trust, there is confidence and growth in that economy. That is the role a meter play in this distribution network of a company. Because I can tell you, it's not about the last phase of distribution. there is meter between the GENCO and the TCN on which the distribution company are being billed. Don't forget that every month, every supply that goes to the DISCO, there is a meter that indicate that this is what we have supplied to you. If there is no meter at that point, they remotely log in into the meter and have access to what they have supplied for the month. So metering is not only to the consumer at the back end, it happens between the GENCO and TCN to tell you of what is actually being willed to them, and also from the TCN. Every feeder that you see within the DISCO has metering at the point. In fact, it's compulsory for every of those feeders to have meter. Every of the substation have meter. Their meter is not as cheap as what we are looking at. It runs into millions. It's to tell you it's for revenue assurance and the confidence between the two parties, because nobody is actually touching it. It is what the meter receives. It translates to you when you are analyzing it.
Our companies right now, it would seem like they are not doing enough to ensure that everyone is metered. Is it an issue of we don't have the capacity, or it's an issue of, well, meters are too expensive, especially with the exchange rate for individuals to be able to afford?
Because we are not producing majorly the components of that metering. It's either you have it as SKD or you bring in holistically the old meters. Foreign exchange plays its role vitally. Don't forget, just last year, September, there was increase in the cost of meter. And as of December, because the dollar was really not smiling to everybody, even the meter manufacturer, they had to put a stop at the importation of even the component and those things, because it rides on foreign exchange. So, and that's why up till today, you will not see any DISCO releasing to you to come and pay for meter, even when you are yearning for rate. Government needs to do everything within their reach to see how we can bring down the foreign exchange in which every business player needs to place this. Above that also, there are certain components that I know can be produced locally. But if you permit me, there are serious insecurity that is actually not allowing individuals to penetrate into areas where some of these things are. And that's why we keep saying that security with the foreign exchange plays a vital role in the development of some of these things. We've asked that you can liberalize the system in such a way that the consumer can go on their own to get meter, but the DISCO has to give approval. They don't need to intervene in it in such a way that they'll be talking about providing. We did that under meter asset provider, but at the same time, we can go some extra mile in such a way that even people that cannot pay in bulk, the meter asset provider can provide like a lease or instrumental financing, which will be factored into the cost of that particular meter for you to be able to acquire. You can imagine if somebody is saying that you have this meter and you are going to pay for 12 months and it's going to be at an extra cost. You might definitely want to go that route, but we may not be able to do that because the DISCO will not be interested. So opening up the system for individual, because it's about your risk. People selling phone today, I'm sure it's about brand. And there are people that will even give you phone and say, go and be using it and be paying installment. After a few months, you can go back, take the phone to them and upgrade your status. That is the liberalization we are actually talking about. And it has to do with the DISCO now coming up to regulate it. Giving them, there's one thing we call the SGC that speaks to each DISCO. You cannot bring Abuja meter to Lagos. You can't take Lagos meter to Enugu. Even within Lagos, you can't take Ikeja to Eko because they have two different supply group code, which is specifically for them. So if you do that, what you'll be doing is that if you move a meter from Ikeja to Eko, Eko will be providing the service by giving you supply. Ikeja will be generating the revenue. And you can see the conflict therein. So what we need to do is the DISCO on their own will make sure there are verifiable MSP that works with the MAPs. the map in such a way to provide those particular metering systems. So you can open it up. You and I, we can connect and say, Leah, can we venture into this metering business? You have the finance, I have the technical know-how. We can collaborate and concentrate in an area. And also, we have said that can we have situation where we'll create another layer that we'll call the sub-metering level, where you can franchise out localities, areas, region, where it will be the business of individual. What the DISCO will only be doing is to bulk build that dedicated transformer.
Would you suggest a kind of collaboration with the learning institutions to find practical solutions using practical means that are indigenous to us in addressing this metering problem?
Of course, I'm an advocate of people that say, can we domesticate some of the things that we have? A lot of countries these days do not rely on outsider. They do their things themselves and they get value for it. That on its own give you some sense of belonging as a citizen of that country. I want to say that it is good enough for the professionals who have understanding of some of these things to collaborate with our institutions, schools, in starting from the grassroots. Who says that we cannot develop meter that will meet up to the standard of what our own system is all about? We can do that. And that is on its own, promoting local content as against always importing everything that we have to do. And possibly maybe to round it up, I would want to say it's high time the regulators look at ways in which they can empower so much. If you stay in an estate where they provide, they have facility managers and they are being bulk billed, they have good power supply. In fact, they have 24 power supply. And how do they do it? They have meters in those particular areas because I have clients that I serviced. They don't have meters from the DISCO. We provide meters for them. The only thing the DISCO does is that they give them bulk bill.
I must sincerely thank you, Mr. Olusesan, for your time in this conversation and for all the insights you've shared with us in the program.
Thank you very much for having me, Leah. It's a great thing to be with you on the show. If you say something, that is the slogan for us in the electricity sector. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Thank you.
My name is Aldumi Ikori.
Keep watching The Policy with Leah.
It aims to provide policymakers an opportunity to explain their policies in a way that members of the public affected by those policies can understand and engage with those policies.
Keep watching The Policy with Leah.
Simplified is next, and from there we head to the markets. And guess what? There are vendors out there who go to the market for you, and you do not need to go through that stress. Join me. For more on rates from markets around, you do well to log on to our sister website. It is www.marketnigeriatv.com. Don't forget, we have this episode and the previous ones on YouTube on our channels. It is Asaban Media Services. We value your feedback, so keep the questions, comments, and suggestions coming. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and give us all your reviews. Until we come your way again, same time next week, my name is Leah Katung-Babatunde saying, have a beautiful weekend and God bless Nigeria.